Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim's PC, and I build custom PCs to suit anyone's needs or budget. Also live stream my builds and repairs for transparency and educational purposes. So if you would like to get an awesome new PC and you'd like... Alright, so I think I've got to start off this stream a little bit differently, because there's a bit of an unfolding situation in my state at the moment. So our thoughts go out to all of our friends in the Wide Bay Burnett region who are suffering from the effects of last night's unprecedented rainfall volume. So this is people in Gympie, Maryborough, Bundaberg and Gayndah. What else is out there? Lots and lots of towns and stuff like that out in that region. Basically, they had something like what Brisbane got in 2011 yesterday. So basically right now there's a heap of water making its way down to Bundaberg and Maryborough. They're putting up flood diversion barriers through the cities and stuff like that to try to prevent as much flooding as they can. So I thought I couldn't start this stream off without mentioning that and saying all of those people who are going through that, because we've all dealt with that in southeast Queensland. You guys dealt with it a little bit back in 2011, but not as bad as what you've copped over the last 24 hours. So yeah, a little bit of a sad one there. A lot of people will be in distress. So yeah, think spare a thought for those people in south central. Alrighty, well, tonight, what we've got for tonight. So, this build here, this was put together by a young fella who's bought me all these parts to put his PC together for him. So, I always appreciate go ahead and put this all together and source all the parts and bring it to me. So, I think I'm going to have to throw in some extra RGB fans here. I think it's going to have to happen to show my appreciation. What do you reckon? I think we just got to do that. Well, let's get started here tonight. So we'll go through the components here and we'll just get started. It's going to be a pretty straightforward build here tonight. I don't have like an all-in-one liquid cooler to install. I've got a couple of extra fans that I'm going to chuck in, but without further ado, let's get started. So our CPU is the i5-10400 here. So 6 cores, 12 threads. Pretty good priced performance. For our motherboard here, we've got the Asrock B560 Pro 4, the ATX version. We'll check that out when we unbox it. What is that? For our graphics card, we got a Radeon RX 6600 version of the card. I'll put this down to the side so it's out of the way. For our memory, we have 16 gigabytes of Crucial Ballistics 3200 MHz CL16 memory. We've got a 1 terabyte Kingston KC2500. For our power supply, we have what is this? A Superflower LeadX 3, 650 watt, 80 plus gold rated. And I did have a look at this before. I didn't see the rating that it puts out per rail, but from everything I'm seeing, it looks like a pretty decent quality unit. I'm not familiar with it personally. Okay. Now, there'll probably be some information in the box if I unbox it so I can nerd out about the specs of that power supply. But anyway, for all intents and purposes, 80 plus gold, 650 watt. Not sure about the warranty or anything like that on the unit. But yeah, I know the efficiency rating, I know the wattage at this stage. Alrighty, and for our case here, we've got one of the new Lian Li land cools with the two 200mm fans in the front. So big, massive RGB fans in the front there. So we're going to balance that airflow out. We're going to chuck in some extra RGB fans at the top here, and I believe we can mount a fan down here to blow some air directly onto our graphics card so it stays nice and cool. So we might transplant. So I think we got a game plan. I just need some fans. Here we go. Chuck some of them in. Alrighty. Our I/O shield, some SATA cables, all the usual offenders. Alrighty. So let's have a look at this motherboard. Alrighty, so this is the Asrock B560 Pro 4 motherboard. So let's point out some of the features here. So we've got 8 pins of CPU power, direct touch heat sinks on our MOSFET and VRM. They are bolted onto the board as well, not just clipped on. We've got our 4 slots here for our memory, so 4 slots, 2 channels. Obviously our LGA 1200 socket here for our CPU. We've got 2 fan headers up here, one CPU, CPU fan 2/water pump. We've got a 5V RGB header, 12V RGB header. We have our ATX power, so the main power for our motherboard. We've got another sneaky fan header back here. We've got a horizontally orientated USB 3 and a vertically orientated USB 3. So pick your orientation there. I really like that. We've got 4 horizontally orientated SATA ports around here. We have a single fan header down there, 2 vertically orientated SATA ports, trusted platform module, front panel connectors, clear CMOS header, a single USB 2, diagnostic speaker header, 2 more fan headers, a 5V and 12V RGB header, looks like a COM port header, Sony Philips digital interface header, front panel audio header down there in the bottom corner. And these little capacitors down here, our audio capacitors, and so like audio related hardware. And our audio is as close as possible to all that. Down here at the rear, on the rear I/O I should say. Now we've got our Ethernet, 4 USB 3s, DisplayPort and HDMI. These won't be in use for this build, so don't try and plug into these display outputs. We've got 2 USB 2s and a PS2 port there as well. And that just leaves us with this stuff in the middle. So we have another sneaky fan header back here. We've got 1, 2 and 3 M2 slots. We have a CNVI Wi-Fi slot, so we can add a CNVI Wi-Fi card. So I can add one of them for $50 if you want, just let me know. We have our main PCIe X16 slot where our graphics card goes. Then we've got 2 X1 slots here. And we've got this other one here that's the same length as this one up here, but it's only connected X4 of the way along, so roughly to where my finger is. So I think in the light there you can see it sort of glistening. You can see the pins inside the socket there. See how it's only part of the way along in the light? Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. So if you plugged your graphics card in here, it'd only get a quarter of the connections that it needs. And that's pretty much all the features of this motherboard. Under here is where our B560 lives. That's the motherboard chipset. Alrighty, and that's all the main features of this motherboard. So let's get started. Alrighty, so we got a i5-10400 here. So it does have onboard graphics, but we're not going to be using the onboard graphics. If we plug into the outputs on the back of the motherboard, we're not going to be using our graphics cards hardware. We're going to be getting the CPU to try and run the game all on its own. And you don't want to do that. So you always plug in to the graphics card. You got a graphics card, plug into it. Alrighty, so we've got one of these crappy blue Intel coolers with just the plain aluminium heatsink. Back here. And instead, we're going to use one of these much better all black Intel coolers with the copper center there, which is a much better design. Okay, so I've got a couple of comments here. I'm flying solo. Mrs. has a headache, so I'm all on my own. Let's see. Got Roberts asking 10th or 11th gens. This is 10th gen. Robert's wanting to build a 12th gen i7. That's what I've got in my computer right now. Yeah, it's pretty wicked. I rate it. I just don't need. I personally, for my computer, I just don't need the i9. I got a 5950X in the editing computer, so I just don't need the i9. But then I've seen the numbers, and I was like, ooh, that i7 looks pretty juicy though. It's the right price for me, and ooh, it's got some really good numbers with it. So I was quite happy to pick myself up the i7. I probably paid a bit more than what you'd pay for it now, because I bought it right at launch. One of them didn't feel like it clicked in. Apparently it did. Okay, so I'm just going to conceal this cable. A little bit of an art to this. Alrighty, so we'll get our memory in. So if you're unaware of Crucial are one of the main manufacturers of like memory and SSDs and stuff like that. They make the actual memory. So there's not too many companies. So Crucial are one of the main players in. So you might have heard of Micron. So that's a brand. specialize in big, network mainframes for companies and, well, not mainframes, I'm talking about some of the... Won't get into that. Drive in this slot here, directly below the graphics card, and then we've got two other M2 slots there on the board, and they'll be easily accessible after we install our graphics card. I just need an M2 screw. I'll chuck one in the spare slot there for you as well. Always try to remember to do that for people. But you need an M2 screw. Most PC shops would just give that to you if you went down and you're in a pinch. Okay? Most would. If they're not just like real greedy. It's a little tiny screw that you get for free. So most places, if you need one of those screws, you can usually just pick one up and just drop in and just be like, hey mate, I'm really sorry to bother you, but do you have like a M2 screw spare? And they're just gonna go, yeah mate, I'll fit you an M2 screw. Like, it'll be that easy for you. So not too hard to track down. They don't actually come with the SSDs. So, alrighty, well, that is our board all prepped and ready to go. So we can turn our attention now to the case. Alrighty, so let's have a look at it. I've shown this case to a few people. No one's bought one yet. So I quite like this case, personally. One of Christine's hair ties. Oh. It's like not a lot of grip on those bolts. Okay. So, what have we got around here? We've got the capacity for 2 hard drives, 2 SSDs. Yeah. Would have liked the capacity to put a third 3.5-inch hard in the Antec D-Flux. You can mount fans to the bottom here as well, but there isn't a vent on the back panel, so we'll mark this one down a little bit for that. But it's not what I would consider a deal breaker. Other than that, the case is pretty well designed. Lots of room there for cable management. It'll be a really easy PC case to build in. We do get an independent controller there, but they only have the capacity to hook up the three RGB devices. So that is the RGB element inside the case itself and the 2 fans. So there's this Lian Li bit at the bottom there, so that'll light up, and so that's independently addressable, plus the fans will be addressable as well. Alrighty, so let's unplug this fan. Let's get rid of this twist tie. Alrighty, what have we got? Got some other comments. Brad says, hi. Hey Brad, Robert said, I'll still die and escape from Tarkov, but at least I'll have 110 FPS. Go water cooling, more better and pretty. Yeah. Well, I can recommend some water cooling, but I don't recommend custom loops to people. It looks pretty, but it's, yeah. It's high maintenance. You'll see very few of them on my channel. And yes, I know I can make a heap of money doing them, but the thing is I don't recommend them to people. The sort of person I recommend it to is the sort of person who can build it themselves, maintain it themselves, and they're completely into it and it's a hobby. And they're proud of their stuff, and yeah, that's the sort of person I recommend it to. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're going to mount this fan here, so it's going to blow some extra air up towards our graphics card. And so what we're going to do, we need some long bolts. I should have adequate ones in here. It looks like no. I'll need more of the. These are the short fins. Will they work? Are they going to work for us? Yep. Don't mind me with my random terminology to describe bolts. I'm sure they've got an actual proper name, and it's not what I'm calling them here. This is what I refer to them as to differentiate them in my head. So when I'm talking out my ass, I'll at least tell you when I'm talking out my ass. I'm just describing the physical pattern in a way that my brain understands. Okay, so we got a fan down here, and we'll try to balance this airflow out. So two 200s on the front, they're going to move a fair bit of volume of air in. So I'm thinking at least 3 on the exhaust. Okay, so we're going to put 2 on the top here. Let's just pull that dust filter off. Oh, the air conditioner just dripped on me. Wetness? Why am I feeling wetness? No, we'll go here. I'd like the fans to be in line with this one at the back. It's always hard just to get that first bolt in when you're doing this. And so we might have to, I'm not sure what the power situation is like on that controller, but we might have a separate circuit. I'm thinking that might be ideal. Then we can choose to either synchronize all the fans and lighting, or we can have the 3 fans inside the case doing something different to the three elements on the front of the case. Always good to have a couple of extra options there. Okay. So this controller around here will have room to plug in our fans, so we can do that. We'll have room for all 6 of our fans. Seriously? Jesus. There we go, and that one at the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to put the zip tie around these cables. Sweet as. Well, all of our fans are hooked up there. Let's get rid of these crappy Velcro ties. Alrighty. Hang on, where's the fan power from that? Is that a non-addressable fan controller? Seriously? I don't like that. How many fan headers have we got on this board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can do this. Yeah, we're doing it. I'm not selling a customer a PC like this with non-addressable fans. I'm sorry, it's just not happening. Maybe if we just had those 200s at the front, that'd probably be okay because they move a lot of volume of air, so they can just sort of chug along. No. So definitely a markdown for this case, and I'm definitely not seeing it. I'm not being blind or anything like that. Alrighty. Aha, that's why I've seen these ones on real cheap. Thread that if I'm not careful. So we're going to remove the non-addressable fan RGB controller. The RGB is addressable, but the fan's not. But our motherboard has adequate fan headers, so we're going to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, that cable-tied group there might have to come undone. But I think that's a win overall. All of our fans are going to be addressable. Okay, before I get too far, I will remember to put some extra bolts in up here. At least 2 more. Alright, we'll screw the rest in later. Let's get this power supply going on. So I'm sure if I googled this power supply that the young fella's done his research on this, and this is a good unit. It looks to me like a good unit. If I was looking for a power supply and I saw this one, I'd be like, oh yeah, this looks like a decent quality one. Look at that, we get a nice little package here for our modular cables. Always a good sign. Power supply comes in foam bricks. Oh, with twist tie screws, I like that. And if I have a look at some detailed specs on it, let me find what I was looking for. Why aren't I seeing the wattage information? Doesn't tell me what it outputs per rail. Okay. I'm sure I could find some more detailed information online. I'd hate for me to be saying all this good stuff about it and then find out it only puts out 600 watts on the 12 volt rail or something like that. And I'd be like, oh, come on guys. But yeah. If someone wants to Google it and have a look at it for me, be my guest. Oh no, it's got the power supply, just not any of the documentation and not on the box. Okay. Yep, so it puts out 649.2 watts on the 12 volt rail there. 3 and 5 volt rail. And then, yeah, we won't even worry about the others. So 3.3 is probably going to be dead soon. If I'm understanding the rumours right, the engineers are done with it. So that means this 24-pin ATX thing on the motherboard, that'll change. Okay, so I won't lose this because I'm going to fill this up with random bits and pieces. So we don't need Molex cables. We won't need both lots of SATA cables. Just need main power, SATA, one PCIe, and one CPU. So these cables not in use, and these are the cables that are in use. So we've got a modular power supply here, so we've got to plug all of our cables in, even our power and CPU cable. And one thing I'll say about this power supply that I like, the ends are all just flat, like black cables, and then it's sleeved in the middle, which gives you plenty of room to maneuver it on fine angles. So one of the things is I'll buy a $200 Corsair power supply, and I've done this live a few times. I got to get the knife out, splice that open, cut it down so I can bend the cables like that, so I can hook it around just to fit it. And ironically, sometimes in some of Corsair's own cases, I have to do that with their own power supply. I always get a good laugh when I'm installing components that are made by one company, and you know they're presumably for the case that you have, but then you have to actually do some modifications to it to fit. I always get a good laugh out of that. Alrighty, so we just need to hook up one cable here for our graphics card. Yes, I'm hooking the right side. One for our CPU. And yeah, remember these cables are directional, so make sure you're plugging the right end into the power supply and the right end into the motherboard, or you may have a bad time. Also, if you have a modular power supply and you're thinking, oh, I just need an extra cable, I'm going to buy some random cable and plug it in, don't do that. Get the cables that come for that power supply specifically, even though they might look the same on the ends. You don't know what pin out of those 6 that the power supply is designating for whatever. It says different configurations, so the cables might cross over or something there, and on this end where you plug into your devices, it's a standard one. Things like that happen, so you've got to be very, very careful with modular power cables. If you're local and you're unsure, bring it in and I'll have a look at it for you in a bit of detail and I'll let you know. And you do that, we can plug in one of my many old shitty graphics cards that if it starts to smoke, it doesn't even matter. We can laugh and go, oh, obviously not that one. And that'll be better than you trying it on your new 3080 that you bought and you need that extra PCIe power cable to power it. That will definitely be better, laughing at my old shit graphics card burning, or starting to burn, and then we'll quickly turn it off, than seeing that happen to your new 3080 card. But most of the time, I'll be able to have a look at the cable configuration, and I'll be able to find, I've got a massive, massive box of spare modular power cables for power supplies. Just random stuff, like I've forgotten to send the customer the spare cables that they really didn't need anyway, and they'll never need, so they're never even going to call me back for the cables. So yeah, like I've got spares around, but yeah, I would not recommend you mess around with modular power cables like that. Don't like go online and try to find random ones and just hope it's right. If you do that, be very careful that you check the pinout and like cabling configuration. Make sure it is identical to the other one. If it's identical, then it's all good, but make sure it's identical. If not, you will have a bad time. And see, I've learnt this the hard way, man. Like I've done it to myself. I've put in the wrong. I did it to 3 hard drives all at once that I had in one of my computers. It was about 5 years ago, I think. And I thought this modular cable was from this power supply, but it was from another one. And the pinout on the 6 pin out of the power supply was different. Had it all hooked up to my drives and everything like that. I'm just like ignorant, just turn it on and stuff like that. Windows is booting from the SSD and I'm like, what's that smell? And then there's all this smoke coming out from my computer and the drives are melting. Yeah, so lost a heap of stuff off those drives, which I had to download again, which is always fun. But anyway, that's one of those things that you don't want to go through, so try to avoid it and listen to what I say, don't do as what I did. Alrighty. So let's flip in our I/O shield here. And are Leon nice enough to have all of the right bolts in place? They are, except for the extra one that Asrock likes to put in there just to be difficult. And speaking of being difficult, alright, there's my offset tool. Jeez, it's tight. Doing this 1/4 turn at a time. There we go. Asrock just like to be difficult with that extra one there. Okay. So I'm going to lie this down so I can get the motherboard in. Oh yeah, Leon Lee have a nice little guidance bolt there for the middle bolt, which is something I like to see. Makes my life easier. Okay. So now that I've got that main bolt in there, I might go ahead and put a couple of extra ones in. But so there may be some cables that I want to run. So it's mainly going to be those ones on the other side there. There's nothing else really back here that we need to do it with. There we go. Alrighty. Okay, so we've got one of these 2 pins that we don't even need anymore. Okay. So our RGB, we can just daisy chain most of that. Alrighty, so we've got 6 fans to plug in. So, yeah, we'll definitely have to cut out this bunch that I did there before I realised we had a non-addressable fan controller. Alrighty, so this is for the back one here. So what we're going to do with this first one, we're going to route it down behind this. Come on. Stop being a prick. Get past the USB port. Geez, they make that really, really tight there. So I'm going to have to straighten this cable out so I can get a more direct angle in here. So I can slide it down just like that. And we're just going to plug that in there. Then we've got a little bit of extra cable length here that we can probably squeeze in here. Yeah. Very good. So we've got that back fan plugged in there now. So now we've got 2 fans up the top here. So one we can just plug in over here. I might go behind the board for that one. And once again, it's going to be a bit of a prick. That's okay. I'll work around it. Sweet. Alright, so this, we can plug that in when we plug in our power for the motherboard. Now we've got a couple over here to the side, or no, I think these 2 on the side are going to have to be plugged in over here. That one is behind that capacitor there. Pull that back a bit. I want to have just enough cable length here. Oh, it slipped out of place. I've got too short a distance. Nice and discreet. Now for this bottom one, just going to go in down here. Oh. Just like that. And so now we're just left with 2 more to plug in down. And so we'll plug in one here. And we'll put that wrong way. There we go. Alrighty, all of our fans are so now we just got this RGB to get sorted. Okay, so we've got one daisy chain from up there, and this will be fun. Oh, that's in. Sweet. Okay, so we've got all of our little fan and RGB cables in place. So you don't actually need this other 2-pin cable, so I'm going to stash it away. And so USB 3, plug that in last. Now our front panel audio can slip down here. Sweet as. It's our front panel audio. Let's put our CPU cable in front of it. Will that just stay in there? No, it's going to stick out. That's alright, we'll deal with that. Go. Now it's just our front panel connectors, power and reset button and all that. So we've got reset, power and power LED. Power LED are the two little individual ones, and it's just so you don't reverse the polarity, not that it's going to like cause anything to start melting, It'll just mean that your computer will have a light on the case when it's off, and then the light will turn off when it's on. So it kind of defeats the purpose of it. So that's why those two cables are individual. None of the other ones matter which way you have them. So it's just those. Alrighty, so we don't even need this SATA cable anymore. We have no SATA devices anymore. But we'll leave that plugged in and just tucked away there. So if we do need some SATA power, we've got it there. Alrighty, so got our motherboard power. These grates there are too far away from the board for my liking. I think I might because of the shape of this cable, it's going to work well. Where'd that freaking land? I didn't hear that. Ah! It landed like in between two of the wires. I'm like, why did I hear a tink when that bolt fell? Something wasn't right. Oh, we're not going to fit it in that way either. That sucks. That really sucks. Oh well. Oh well, it is what it is. Alrighty. So other than the pins on our CPU, the USB 3 connector pins are probably the most delicate on the board, so be careful when you plug these in. Okay, it's graphics card time. So this is the Radeon 6600 XT, the MSI Mech 2. Alright, so we're using slots 2 and 3 here. Alrighty. this is the one with the better fans and the slightly bigger capacity cooler here. Alright, let's go it. So there we go. Alrighty, that's looking pretty good. We'll just keep a couple of these cables in place, just like that. You gonna play for us? No, we're gonna need it. We're gonna need at least one cable tie. Probably just one there to bunch that. Just hold that down so we can get our panel closed. Very good. Alrighty, that's one cable tie at the back, and everything else is just tucked away. All of our connections are easily accessible. One cable tie to cut out, one cable tie to replace. What do you reckon we fire it up and see if it actually works? Hate it when there's like a little bit of metal at the back on the I/O shield, just gets caught. Okay. Let me have a quick look at the comments. Oh, it doesn't look like anyone's commented for a while. Alright, moment of truth time. So it's an Asrock board, so when I flick this switch on, we should see some RGB of some sort. Yep. There we go. There we go. Alrighty. I'll load that straight into Windows. We can do that. Okay. So I'm going to cover this up while I enter the product key, so no sneaky sailor steals it. There's our 1 terabyte SSD. Go ahead and while that's doing that, I'm going to put a couple more. What does everyone think of this case? Alright, it looks sweet. This is the Lian Li Landcool. I can't think of the model number off the top of my head. But if you have a look at Lian Li cases at PC Case Gear or Umart or something like that, you will find it. If you search for Landcool or just look at the Lian Li cases, you'll see this one there. It's quite a nice looking case. So it comes with the 2 fans at the front pre-installed, and then you would add your own cooler and other fans, etc. Okay. We use the US keyboard layout because of the $sign. And we're going to continue with limited setup because I do not set any passwords or accounts up for people. If you set a password, it's not got nothing to do with me. I can fix it for you, but yeah. I had one guy, he had something go wrong and he needed like administrative privileges for something, and he's like, calls me up all angry about this administrator password that I set. He's like, you've locked me out, I've set this password, I can't even use my computer. I'm like, I haven't set any passwords, man. If it's asking you for a password, press enter with a blank password. He's like, oh. But people don't know that sometimes. An account. So I'm not sure how that's going to work long term. Wonder if Microsoft will sort of roll back on that and allow us. Or maybe someone's worked out a fix or a solution to that and I just haven't heard about it yet. That's possible. Okay. So now we're back to Windows. We can plug in some internet. Taskbar. Ready for your own clutter. And we don't have a Wi-Fi driver. So even though I've got a cable plugged in, we don't have internet. So I'm going to plug in my universal Wi-Fi adapter, which should give it a second. There we go. That will find the wireless LAN and it will connect, and now we can get the drivers for our Ethernet. We can watch the little symbol down here change when the Ethernet driver is installed. Okay, we're going to refresh this. Open up search. We get Cinebench. So you might be wondering what's R23. I type it in and I always bring up Cinebench and it doesn't say R23 on it. R23 is the version of Cinebench that we're running. Release 23. I think that's what the R technically stands for. Some optional updates. Might skip the display driver for now. Just want everything else installed. Yep, there we go. We're on Ethernet now. Here's my SSD. Okay, so we need to put down some custom desktop icons. And then we'll install our graphics card drivers from here. doing this around the other way tonight. Look at that. For now, until it refreshes the list. Okay, so I just remember we've got a radio, so it's gonna stuff up, I believe. Yep, there we go. Just a second, the stream's gonna like go down for about 10 seconds, but I'll be right back. Okay, so now we are back. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, Intel driver support. No IQ. No NVIDIA. Epic gonna play for us. So we got stupid thing. Asrock motherboards. We got App Shop. And motherboard utility. I don't want to restart. Yeah. No Western Digital. Oh, I've already got it. Yeah, play for us now. Okay. Let's see if I can set up MSI Afterburner before Asrock forces a restart on me. Let's see how far I can get. Oh, which one's 1 and 2? Oh, yep. 1 is our card. Ah! Yep, so this is still on 1.8. It's found our BIOS. I love the instant flash tool on Asrock. I think my next motherboard, personal, I think I'm going to buy a high-end Asrock board for myself. I'm going to do it. I'm going to daily drive an Asrock. That's nothing new. I've done that plenty of times in the past. They've got some really awesome boards on their high end. So this is a pretty simple update, this one. This BIOS version, this is just to make it compatible with Windows 11 without changing anything in BIOS. So a pretty simple setup. And then you can upgrade to Windows 11 whenever you feel like it. Or not. Okay, so this is still doing its updates. ME driver. Let's set the time and date. Oh, fuck off. So now it's going to restart on me. There, look at that. Right when I said it would. Gotcha. Alright, we're nearly done. This is the last restart, I'm pretty sure. check those comments. Oh no, it's going to restart again. Really? I got one more stat done. Thank you. Okay, now we can finish setting this up. Okay. So now we've got everything up to date. Already in use. Okay. Well, let me... So apparently, I entered someone else's code when I set it up and not this customer's code, because that other one was already in use. Okay. Sweet as. Let's just check Windows updates. View optional updates. But don't I already have the latest? We're up to date. Let's let Windows do its thing so it's not constantly telling us we've got an update. Alrighty, so while it's doing that, let's run Heaven benchmark. So high, no anti-aliasing. So this number here below RAM is the frames per second it's currently running at. fuck's happened here? Probably something to do with those Windows updates. Mal said put Rise of the Reds on it. That's funny. I was doing a house call at his house today, and we were getting Rise some mods. There was a particular process to the install. Oh, that was just fucking gold. Alrighty. So Windows should be all up to date now. Oh, still some cumulatives. No restart for those. There we go. Alrighty, so let's move on. Let's do Valley next on Ultra Max Anti-Aliasing. It'd be fine if that game was actually installed before we were trying to install the patch. That would have solved all our problems. Alrighty, so that was Valley there on max. The final one we do is our 4K benchmark. Alrighty, so that was superposition there at 4K. Alrighty. Well, we are now at the end of the night where we do the stress test. Alrighty, so we're stressing the graphics card and we're stressing the CPU. There we go. Alrighty, so now we just let this run for the next 90 minutes while we log the temperatures there in hardware monitor. Alrighty. Well, this is the pretty much the end of the night, so I throw it over to anyone who's still watching live. It is pretty late. If you got any other final questions for me before I sign off, now is your time to ask. So I wouldn't worry about this. That is most probably a sensor that's not connected. The circuit's probably on the motherboard, but it's not connected, because that is an anomalous reading. If it was 116 degrees on that, we would be seeing something like that somewhere else here as well. So that anomalous reading, so don't worry about that. Graphics card's very well behaved. Yeah, happy days. Alrighty, well, I'm getting a bit tired, so I think I might leave it there for the night. Alright. So thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.